what I'm going to take a look at in this video is a technique I use to get the knuckle plates together. Now if you have a look at Gothic gauntlets, there are many different types of knuckles and the shapes, and you know, there's probably just as many techniques to get them right to the time period you're doing. So this is just one of those techniques. It's an easy one, doesn't really require any specialist equipment, I think. At least that you can't get hold of easily, or just reshape a hammer to become part of. So we'll take a look at this. We'll get it to the same stage as this, and then I'll clean this one up and get it finished and show how I do that in a second video. But in this one we're going to do the roughing out and show how to get the knuckle shapes in there relatively quickly and relatively easily. So first of all, give yourself a centre mark. Just go in a straight line. Now I'm going to hopefully put a picture up, if I can find it, of a gauntlet, and you can see that the gauntlet knuckles don't always line up with, well, in this case it wouldn't be impossible to, don't always line up perfectly with the plate when made by some of the most skilled artisans of their day. Okay, so you could just put a straight line across here and then give yourself a bit of room. The beautiful thing about making these knuckle plates is you can flip them over and they can come left or right. So if you're not sort of au fait enough to definitely be making a left or definitely be making a right, just get on and make it, and they should hopefully work. Give yourself another line. So what we've got there is we would have a knuckle here, a knuckle there. We want our last knuckle. Make sure you give yourself enough room here, because that's got to come down and something sort of artistic be done to it and take rivets. So we've got 3 knuckles and then a 4th knuckle. Now I've already made this one so I could show it, and I didn't really think ahead too well, because what I would like to do is put them both side by side, so at least when I'm working I'm going to make the same size hand. So even if you make an error, you can put it away somewhere and you can use it on a much later gauntlet if needs be. But I think that was more or less where I went. So what I'm going to do now is I'll scratch those in using this, and then we'll apply a bit of heat. I tend to start in the middle, and we'll get it over the former that I'll show you in just a moment. So the former I use for these sorts of knuckles is nothing special. In this instance, a bit of 18mm square bar. It's not even tool steel, just a bit of mild, because what you're working on it is sheet, and that sheet's going to be hot, so it won't bend this at all. It won't ever damage it. So save yourself some pennies and just make it out of mild. It's welded up in this weird way because I learned it wasn't sitting in the anvil particularly well. The end here is just rounded off. It's kind of unimportant. There doesn't need to be a crease. I can just pick up the beginnings of one in there, but that's because I thought I needed it. Don't need it at all. Just take the end off like that, round it round, take all the sharps off, and we'll show you how to use this one in just a tick. So flip it over and mark yourself vaguely halfway. Just the guide more than anything, doesn't have to be accurate. Just mark yourself halfway, show where your edges are, again vaguely, because when we're hammering through in a moment I tend to go about that much further. You'll see what I mean. Don't worry about it being smooth on this side, because you're going to do a lot of work on that yet. Just get it done and looking okay-ish. I'm going to drop a bit of heat across the middle here. Now remember, that's not my knuckle peak in the black. My knuckle peak is in this area here. When I heat this up, I can gauge where I am on the stake, because when I touch it to the stake will sink out the heat and I'll see a little black line appear, and that gives me my gauge. But we don't need to be too accurate, we're just getting in our basic shape at the moment, so don't sweat it, keep it nice and steady, and just drop in those little dents as you need to, and we can tidy it up after. So I've warmed up that piece, lay it on, in the middle on, and just take that down. Working on one side, and because that's rounded, doesn't have to have a crease, I can work up to it, and my hammer can start to add a crease. Be careful when you're down here not to keep working it, because you will put a massive twist in the work. Remember, this knuckle has to go around your own knuckles, so don't end up hammering it flat. There were versions that were a lot straighter than this, but this one has preserved its curvature that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this one up and drop it in whilst it's still hot, make my life a bit easier without me jibber jabbering on, and you can see how it's done in one go. So what I'll do is I'll press on, get these other two bits to this standard, and I'll show you the next bit. Now, a point that's worth making, as you do these ones on the end, they're going to come round. So what we don't want is a sort of crenellated look to them. So don't work this bit too hard, because that's going to come around the knuckle. Give it a bit of shape, across the crest, across what will be the crease. But don't go doing too much, because we've got to pull this round yet. So I'm going to give this a quench, and I'll show you how to get on to the next bit.